Kraken Home Ice is sponsored by Primera Blue Cross, always in your corner.
Come on inside Climate Pledge Arena as the Columbus Blue Jackets make their only appearance this season here in Seattle.
Tanev has open ice. Here comes Turbo with Gord going to the front. Turbo scores! He springs Bjorkstrand, who has Borgen right down Lenny Wilkins' way. He scores! Hey, hey, what do you say? Will Borgen. 2-on-1. Werenski with Aston Reese. Werenski delays and Oleksiak. What a job. DeCourt took care of the rest.
Where the Seattle Kraken hosts the Chicago Blackhawks for their one and only visit this season.
Look how close that opportunity was for Donato. Great reaction there from DeCourt.
McCann has Beniers. He scores! Bedard mishandles Tanev. Empty net goal. 4 goals in his last 3 games.
The Kraken get set for the New York Islanders.
Tanev turns, shoots one, loose, they score! Yanni Gord for his first of the season. Cycles out with it, hammered by Oleksiak. They score!
The Kraken have been enjoying a long homestand. It continues tomorrow night against the Rangers, followed by a game against the Predators Wednesday night. Then it's down to Southern California to take on the Ducks and the Kings. Welcome to another episode of Kraken Home Ice. Let's take a quick look back at the week. The first period of Tuesday's game against Columbus may have had fans a little bit nervous until the Kraken scored 5 unanswered goals. We're talking to head coach Dan Bylsma about the homestand and what the team needs to do to get past those first period slumps. There's also a new member of the Kraken in town. Well, more of a returning member. Last week, the team signed Daniel Sprong, and it's been a journey for him to get to Seattle. We're also hearing from Jared McCann, who's on a point-scoring spree. But first, let's take a look at the homestand so far. On Tuesday, the Kraken got a wake-up call in the first period against Columbus. They gave up 2 goals in a span of 23 seconds. Coach Dan Bylsma called a timeout, they settled down, and went to work, scoring 4 goals in the second period. Goals 2 and 3 came in a span of 10 seconds. Then, to sweeten the win, Jared McCann added an empty netter as the Kraken beat Columbus 5-2.
On Thursday, the Kraken faced the Blackhawks. After a scoreless first period, the Kraken cranked it up a notch in the second. Oliver Bjorkstrand and Jared McCann helped set up Matty Beniers for Seattle's first goal. Third period, final seconds of a power play, Chandler Stevenson spots Jaden Schwartz in front, and Schwartz scores his 200th NHL career goal. The Blackhawks pull within 1 and pull their goalie for an extra attacker. But Turbo seals the deal, scoring his 4th goal in 3 games. Kraken win it 3-1.
That was something that we wanted to do tonight. I know it's been a few games now where we haven't had the starts we wanted or first period, so I think especially at home it can create a lot of momentum and put teams on their heels. So I think it's kind of how we wanted, obviously, to start the homestand, and hopefully we can finish it the same way here.
Captain Jordan Eberle is out for at least 2 games after crashing hard into the boards during Thursday's game. He was helped off the ice, clearly shaken up on his way to the bench, leaving the game with a lower body injury. Head coach Dan Bylsma says Eberle is expected to get evaluated early next week.
There's a familiar face back in the Kraken locker room. Forward Daniel Sprong returns. The Kraken acquired him in a trade with the Vancouver Canucks. He was previously in Seattle for a couple of seasons.
Sprong was acquired by the Kraken last week, but due to work visa delays, did not get to Seattle until Friday. Head coach Dan Bylsma joked that Sprong was sprinting across the border from Canada to make his ice time.
Once he got over the border, I think he just turned it into a sprint. Because ice time is early afternoon. So
Tuesday was Military Appreciation Night at Climate Pledge Arena. The special jersey for the night was a nod to local military, and integrated into that jersey was a map of Joint Base Lewis McChord. Military Appreciation Night is part of the team's Common Thread series of 9 themed community games featuring specially designed jerseys. Tuesday was a night to honor military members past and present. On top of the specialty jerseys signed by Kraken players and up for auction, service members were involved in rolling out the American flag on the ice during the national anthem. Tuesday was a partnership between the Kraken and Starbucks. Military Appreciation Night was very special for the Kraken's Senior Director of Technology Operations, Sean Rollins, who was a communications specialist in the Army for 10 years, serving 2 tours in Iraq and earning the rank of sergeant.
I think we're doing more and more every year. I think in the beginning, we were just trying to figure everything out, right? I mean, from across the board with every department, right? I think just involving veterans and the decisions that they're making this year was a huge step just to be included in that, and I think that's part of the growth.
Kim Santiago, a Starbucks licensed district manager and military spouse, helped play a role Tuesday and said it's an important night for service members and their families.
When you think about the sacrifices our military men and women give and the families give, it's just a great moment for us to really just celebrate with our kids, have a great night, and celebrate the partners that join us to actually uplift the community.
As part of the Kraken's Veterans Day celebrations, the team held a Veterans Day open practice on Monday, and the bleachers were packed. At practice, Matty Beniers and Starbucks presented Blue Star families with a $50,000 puck drop grant. The funds will go toward helping military families connect with their neighbors and resources. Coming up, we sit down with head coach Dan Bylsma to talk about the resiliency of his team after a couple of tough first periods so far this season, and some timely decisions by the head coach.
It's not so much simplifying the game plan or simplifying your mindset, but being very intentional about how we execute with the pucks to give yourself a chance to play fast.
Also ahead on Kraken Home Ice, the NHL's Hockey Fights Cancer initiative is uniting the sport to raise awareness and fund game-changing cancer research. We talked to a doctor from Virginia Mason Franciscan Health about the importance of early cancer screenings.
Assist of the Week is sponsored by Primera Blue Cross, always in your corner.
The assist of the week goes to Chandler Stevenson for his power play assist to Jaden Schwartz in Thursday's win over the Blackhawks. Stevenson's assist helped Schwartz score the 200th goal of his NHL career.
It's been a solid homestand for the Kraken so far, but not without its challenges. We talked to head coach Dan Bylsma about some of those challenges, and one of them includes the sluggish starts in the first period.
You have to recognize the opposition, and they're trying to start fast too. They're trying to present their game to you as well, and in order to have a fast start, I think you really, I don't mean to think you need to simplify the game plan, but I think you need to be real intentional about your execution, real intentional about how you manage the puck and play with the puck in order to give yourself a chance to have a fast start, to put another team back on their heels.
There's been a few times this season already where you've had these timely timeouts and you did it the other night. What is that something that's just innate for a head coach, where you're just like, I'm sensing something right now and I'm going to drop the timeout and we're going to get reset?
I don't know if it's innate, but I think it's more apparent than maybe it seems. Like, a couple games ago in Boston, things weren't starting real well, and we had a whistle 5 seconds before an upcoming TV timeout. It was 10:05 on the clock, and I knew the next whistle would be a timeout, a TV timeout, and so I let the next play expire, knowing that the timeout was going to come and use the TV as a timeout. Against Columbus, the TV timeout was coming after the second goal. It was coming very shortly after that goal, but I thought it was critical to stop the game at that point in time and just give everybody a reset mind frame. And yep, we're not in a great spot. We haven't played well to this point in time, but taking the timeout really was a good time to have a conversation to say, okay, that's over with. Okay, reset, and let's get to what we can do.
So you have 30 seconds to get their minds right,
roughly a minute,
and get on the same page. And so can you see it in their eyes when they come over? See, when they score 2 goals in a span of 23 seconds, is there a look on the players' faces like, what's going on?
Nobody at that particular time was happy with how things were going. Nobody at that time thought we were playing well. So I think it's acknowledgement of that and end it at that particular moment, end it and get on to the next thing. And there's a long way to go in that hockey game after that timeout. And as proof would tell, we had plenty of time to get to our game and do the things we think we could do in the game to come back in the game.
To the front, Turbo scores!
You got to be pretty impressed as a coach that your players have that kind of drive where it seems like in the first few weeks of the season, you've gotten that point across.
You know, that's what good teams continually do, and that's what good teams continually present night to night. It's not all going to go perfectly. The game never does. You have to continue to stay in the fight, continue to stay in the battle, and deal with it, and be resilient, step back, come back, and the clock's not always going to be in your favor at the end of the game, but the comeback, the resiliency, it can never be in doubt.
Seems like your depth on this team is starting to show a little bit. Is that something you knew was coming and that you had this deep roster?
I think all the players in our group believe that we're a good team because of our depth, because we have 4 lines that can add on any given night and need to add on every night for us to be a good team, and that goes for our defense as well. So you've seen that play out in the first part of the season. We've gotten it from Jared McCann and Matty Beniers and Jordan Everly line. For 3 games, they were our best line. You've seen the Ty Carte, Yanni Gord, Turbo line really be energizing for our team early on in the season, but really especially the last couple games where they've been the guys that stepped up.
Chance they score! Ty Cartier!
Wednesday is the Kraken's Hockey Fights Cancer Night. This year's focus for the Kraken and Virginia Mason Franciscan Health is spreading the word. Early detection saves lives. They're encouraging fans to get screened early. Screening for prostate cancer will be the focus on Wednesday. Virginia Mason Franciscan Health is offering simple blood tests to detect early levels of PSA, a potential marker for prostate cancer. We talked to a doctor from VMFH who stresses the importance of screening and early detection, especially for age groups who are at a higher risk.
So the average age range of prostate cancer is actually getting younger and younger. Okay. So our screening guidelines have changed a little bit. So now you can get screened as early as 45 years old for the initial baseline screening for any man who is at average risk of prostate cancer. However, for some men who are actually at increased risk of developing prostate cancer, for example, if they have a family history of prostate cancer, then they may get screened even earlier, as early as 40 years old for the baseline screening.
The Hockey Hall of Fame announced big honors for 2 members of the Kraken. General Manager and Hockey Hall of Famer Ron Francis was named chair of the selection committee, and Kraken broadcaster and NHL great Eddie Olczyk was named to the Hall of Fame selection committee. Eddie says he's honored to get the call, adding the responsibility to be part of the committee is very humbling.
Just a really good feeling to know that the committee would think of me as that I could be a part of it. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll be a rookie again and just kind of learn about the process and how everything kind of plays out and takes care of itself. And you know, with Ronnie, obviously we played together in Pittsburgh and roomed together, and obviously here in Seattle with the Kraken. So just very pleased to be a part of the committee.
Coming up on Kraken Home Ice, we'll hear from Jared McCann. We talked to him about big goals scored so far this season. We also had a chat about his beloved corgi, Cheddar. In the shootout this week, we're going down memory lane. The players tell us about their earliest hockey memories.
McCann, yawning cage, bullseye!
The goal of the week goes to Jared McCann. In Tuesday's big win over the Blue Jackets, McCann iced the game with an empty netter.
Jared McCann has had quite the season so far. 100 goals as a member of the Kraken, plus 600 NHL games, all while leading the team in points scored. We talked to McCann about those milestones.
Loose in front on a backhand score!
And that's 100 for Jared McCann as a Seattle Kraken.
You know, it's obviously a huge accomplishment. Especially after my first year in the NHL, you know, being traded, I didn't really know what was going to happen, and obviously, you know, being traded at a young age is tough. And, you know, it's just had to stick with it, grow mentally, and just try to become, you know, a player that I knew it could be.
Jared McCann is off to a hot start. He's the first player to get to the 200-point mark with Seattle. The leader in goals, points, and assists, the forward does it all. Against Vegas, McCann was monumental in helping the team snap a 3-game losing streak, scoring 29 seconds in overtime against the Golden Knights.
Jared McCann has the game on his stick. He scores!
Yeah, it was huge to get a win against a really good team like that. Was great, and obviously Monty made a great play at the blue line there to kind of give me the puck.
A current struggle for the Seattle Kraken is their sluggish starts in the first period, something McCann says needs to change.
We've kind of come out slow and let other teams dictate, you know, the pace of play, and we got to change that.
McCann is one of the original members of the Deep. Seattle quickly became a place he's happy to call home.
It's time to yeet the fish.
We love it here, and you know, it's we're outdoors people too, so it obviously makes it a lot easier.
When McCann isn't on the ice, he's likely enjoying the outdoors with his wife and their corgi, Cheddar.
Everybody loves him. You know, he's a very friendly guy, and he likes to say hello to everybody. And you know, if I leave him alone for a second, he's in, you know, the coach's office or something, doing something. So you know, you definitely got to keep an eye on him.
The dog's name is a nod to one of the McCann's favorite shows.
My wife and I, when we first met, we started the TV show Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Captain Holt's dog, Cheddar. You know, we just love the name, and you know, it just kind of came from there.
Playing hockey has been a boyhood dream for many of the Kraken players. In this week's shootout, we asked those players about their earliest hockey memories.
From what I remember, being able to walk, I had a pair of skates on. And then early childhood memory, just probably early mornings, probably waking up my dad. I was always one to wake up early, but as a kid, wake up early and make sure we're, you know, going to practice on time.
Earliest hockey memory is probably my first skates. Wanted to quit hockey right away. It was pretty easy to jump into hockey. I have two brothers, they both play hockey. My dad used to play hockey and he coached us, so I didn't have a choice, but I'm glad I didn't have a choice.
We had a pond in my backyard back home, and just being out there, you know, my dad put up lights. I could go out when it was nighttime, just being out there like after school, cold out, have my friends over, my brother, so it was fun.
My dad was working for the Boston Bruins, and he went to go see one of their AHL games, the Providence Bruins, and I remember he took me with him, and we were sitting up in the press box.
Probably just learning how to skate first, was just chasing like beanbags around or whatever the heck you're doing when you're just a kid. So that's probably the first on-ice memory I have.
Earliest memory I have of hockey was I used to be scared of the referees when I was a kid, so I didn't want to play.
Skating at Kew Gardens at the bottom of my street.
Just getting a brand new Bauer Vapor 20 hockey stick. It was black and had 2 silver X's on it, and I thought it was pretty sweet.
I think just the earliest one I can remember is like playing on the pond with my parents.
Probably not going to sign up and not being old enough to play. I had to wait a year, so I remember being pretty sad about that.
Coming up on Kraken Home Ice, the One Roof Foundation is partnering with a local organization to bring hockey to refugee and immigrant families. The program is helping introduce hockey to the youngest generation. Last week, we launched a new segment called Slapshot Snapshot, featuring you, the fans of the Deep. Here are some of the photos we received from fans showing off their Kraken spirit. Send us photos of you at Kraken games or sporting your favorite Kraken gear. Text your Slapshot Snapshot to 206-448-4545, and you could see it featured on next week's show. The save of the week goes to Joey Decord for Tuesday's game against Columbus. Joey had a season-high 38 saves, and Seattle had its third 2-goal comeback win of the season. The Kraken are creating the next generation of skaters by breaking down access barriers. The Refugee Women's Alliance and One Roof Foundation joined forces 4 years ago to create a program to provide free transportation equipment, and skating lessons for preschoolers in nearby early learning centers. Ariel Orsuto has the story.
Start 'em young. That's always the advice you hear when coaches suggest how to craft the top-tier athletes. But not every family has that privilege.
No way. There's no way I can teach them how to skate if it weren't for a program like this.
Tiffany Keene is just one of roughly 40 parents with that same sentiment. The Refugee Women's Alliance, or REWA, provides educational and social services to refugee and immigrant families. REWA teamed up with One Roof and the Seattle Kraken to provide free skating lessons for 2 nearby preschools.
We get them through the whole school year. We start in October and we'll end in June with a full graduation ceremony that they do. So we get them on the ice for the first time. We spend the whole year, the whole regular season here teaching them how to skate.
Every week they're coming to see their children's growth and learning on the ice. And each week they're telling me, wow, they're learning so much. They're really practicing their gross motor and fine motor skills, including bouncing. So that's been a key aspect of their learning as part of their development.
Every week, providing the opportunity for the kids just to learn the joy to, skate and just being on the ice and learning about their abilities and confidence. You cheer on for other kids when they're learning how to skate.
Good job, Eller. Keene and her 2 children, Rufus and Phoebe, are even sharing a new passion for sports that they ordinarily wouldn't have explored without these weekly skates.
So because of the Kraken skating program, Rufus actually knows about hockey. So we actually start watching hockey games.
But a lot of our families have never heard about it. Usually their first learning opportunities about hockey, Kraken, skating is through REWA because of our partnership with One Roof and Seattle Kraken. Hockey predominantly is it's very expensive. B, a lot of time, the gear, transportation to indoor facilities that have ice rinks, it all adds up. A lot of these parents are very grateful to be able to experience it firsthand. And as a result, they've also learned more about how important just sports education is, especially being introduced to it at such a young age.
When they're not on the ice, the Kraken are out and about in the community. Kraken mascot Bowie and some of the players surprised students at local elementary schools, where they answered kiddos' questions about hockey and life with the Kraken.
There's more hockey coming up this week at Climate Pledge Arena. Tomorrow, the Kraken take on the New York Rangers. On Wednesday, the Kraken face the Nashville Predators.
So still plenty of hockey to come at Climate Pledge Arena. And that'll do it for this episode of Kraken Home Ice. You can catch us Saturday nights at 10:30 on Kong or 11:35 on Sunday nights on King. Thanks for looking in. We'll see you next week.
Kraken Home Ice is sponsored by Primera Blue Cross.